I like it spooky.
Hey everybody, this is Brian from the I Like It Spooky podcast.
And I'm Jason.
And this week we have a special guest.
I'm waiting for my introduction. Who's going to introduce?
We have Tad Good this week. He's a professional podcaster from Iowa, and he's got a spot on several podcasts. He's got his own podcast. He's got the First Time podcast, and he has a spot. How long have you been on Attack of the Killer podcast?
I think it's been like 4 or 5 years now. Feels like a lot longer, but it may be less, maybe 4. I'm thinking they've been doing it for 11 years now, so probably 4 or 5 for me.
Wow.
Yeah, you're one of the, probably outside of Mike and Jason, probably one of the longest tenured podcasters on the show.
Yeah, now it's both basically those two, and then whoever, they've rotated co-hosts over the last 11 years and came on as a guest and never left. So that's how I got the gig.
And you have your own podcast?
Yeah. First time. During the lockdown, I had found myself with a little bit of free time since the theater was closed, and I've been kicking around the idea of doing a podcast where I introduce people to new movies, TV shows, or food, or just about anything I think they would like, and we talk about it. And here we are, 80 episodes in, and still going strong. So,
wow! And you do a First Time podcast every week?
Yeah, unfortunately, no. I really, back when everything was closed down, it was like very easy to do once a week because a lot of us sat around at home most of the time. Besides work, it was a lot of downtime. And now that things are back rolling again, it's my schedule's a little hectic, but it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing this every week with the homework that you have to put into a movie or a record or a food, getting out to a restaurant or an event and doing something for the first time. And then I don't know about you guys, but I take notes and, try to research a little bit, and then you have to record, and then you have to edit on top of that. And it just becomes kind of daunting at times with everything else that's going on.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's been, the more I do it, the more I learn, and the more streamlined it's become, especially like, in post, like learning to do things right while I'm recording so that I don't have to spend a whole lot of time editing. But as you two know, it doesn't always go as expected, and you never nail it like right away. There's always going to be something you have to edit later. So
yeah, and we're pretty new to it, so it's kind of nice. We have 4 of us, so we take turns doing the editing. So by the time it gets back to me, I've forgotten stuff, so I have to re-educate myself and learn. But do you do all the editing yourself?
Yeah, I've sort of just taught myself, and luckily, like I said, I figured out for the most part how to get things close to right when we're recording. You never, sometimes a wrench gets thrown in the spokes, but I always have a trusty notepad and pen with me, so I can write down where I think something needs to be edited or changed, and go off my notes and try to remember why I wrote what I did. And and luckily with Attack of the Killer podcast, Jason's sort of been the behind the scenes guy for so many years, and bless him, because it's amazing all the stuff that he does. He throws the images together and puts up the Twitter polls and just all kinds of stuff. That guy is a workaholic. He never stops. So
excellent.
Yeah, so going back to First Time podcast, that's how I got kind of in the podcast. I know we've talked about being a fan of Attack of the Killer podcast, but you had me on First Time podcast as my first guest spot on a podcast.
Yeah.
We did the WNUF special with Brian Clark, and kind of just fueled my love for podcasting and networking and making friends through, podcasting and scary movies. And thank you for that.
Oh, of course, man. And I always see it as like, I see you guys at every movie screening, local convention, all kinds of stuff. And we stand around and talk about what we've seen or what we've been up to. And it's like, people want to hear this, might as well record it and make something of it. It's a little more formal, but it's really comes down to just a conversation with friends. And It's a fun way to sort of force us into a social situation and chat about movies and things that we love. So
awesome. I know Jason last year when we did Midwest Monster Fest, every time he'd lose me, he'd know where to go find me. Staying around talking to you guys.
Yep.
And I think I've said before, I'm not the extreme social type guy. I don't go out of my way to make conversations with people, but now seeing Brian do it a lot more, I kind of told myself I'm going to start putting myself out there. I'm usually the type of guy that likes to walk up to a table and just look and really not make conversation. I'm good if I'm put into a conversation, but starting a conversation being like that, it's kind of weird to me, but kind of coming out of my shell now a little bit.
Well, that's what I sort of think with podcasting. It's helped me a little bit because I can be shy at times, especially when I don't know the person. And it's sort of like with this, it's like I have an excuse, like someone who I normally would never, approach and just have a conversation because I don't know where to even start it. With a podcast, it's like, well, hey, jump on, let's talk about a movie, and then a friendship, blooms, and then we're talking, chatting back and forth. So, I feel like I said, it's just sort of like a formal conversation, but really it comes down to just two people talking about what they love, or multiple people talking about what they love. So
right on. Yeah. So speaking of the conventions, I know we love to do a lot of conventions, and I've seen you at several. Do you have any cool convention stories? Anything that you've done that you've found real fun?
Well, man, you guys do a lot more than I do. I think outside of like Halloween-a-Palooza and Midwest Monster Fest, the only real big one I tend to go to is Crypticon, Kansas City. And that's just because I hitch a ride with Mike and Jason and them. But I think that one was one of the most fun ones I had because, the first year that I went, Joe, Bob, and Darcy were there, which was like a big one to check off the list, a big reason for me to go. And I had been chatting with Joe Bob's assistant several months before the convention about bringing him to Burlington, and didn't pan out at the time. But we've kept in touch over the years. His assistant apparently is from the Midwest over in Illinois, like closer to where Brian's at. And she would come to Burlington with her grandparents when she was younger. And she was just asking how the town was and stuff. Well, flash forward several months and go to Crypticon, go up to Joe Bob's table and talk a little bit to Darcy while we're waiting in line, and pop up. And, I say, Joe Bob shakes my hand, says, "What's your name, Tad?" And he's like, "Are you Tad from Iowa?" And I'm like, "How do you know me?" And he's like, "Oh, we've been chatting about getting a show. I've never been to Iowa. I've never done my redneck show in Iowa. So we want to make it happen." And it was like, that guy's mind is like a vault. He remembered me, and we didn't even talk directly. I talked to his assistant. He was like, just from my first name, was like, "Oh, you're Tad from Iowa." And then he signed my poster as "To the Drive-In King of Iowa, Tad." And that was just like the coolest thing. I'm like, he said it, so now it's official, right? I mean, it's my title, so I have it written on a poster, and that was one of my coolest. Or I guess that same convention, talking to Bill Moseley, we have a mutual friend, Scott Schreiner, who did the theme music for my podcast. They met through music. Bill Moseley had a band called Cornbugs with Buckethead, and Scott plays bass and Weezer. And they somehow met, and I was talking to Bill, and I'm like, "Oh, we have a mutual friend, Scott." And he's like, "Well, tell Scott I said hi." He's like, "You have his number?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Will you call him?" And it was like, I'm like the middleman between Bill Moseley and Scott Schreiner. And it was just really weird. And every time I'd run into Bill, he's like, he would act like we were friends. And that was just, that's what the magic of conventions is, is just, you have to remember they're just people too, and it's just cool to interact, for the most part. I've never had a bad celebrity experience, so that's good. But yeah, those are just, that one convention brought a lot of memories around.
Man, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's official. You're the drive-in king of Iowa now. I mean, if Joe Bob says it.
If he says it, and he's the authority, so.
Yeah, he wrote it down and signed it. That's a proclamation. You could take that to the courthouse and have it stamped, notarized.
Yeah, there we go.
They'll notarize anything if you give them enough money, right?
Right. I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
So what's your coolest item you've gotten at a convention? Like, is that the autograph? Is that one of the tops there?
That's probably got to be. I have, from just that convention, have a stack of autographs. and from Halloween Palooza, I've gotten plenty of autographs too. You know, I like the either 8x10 or 11x17 posters the most. I have it wasn't quite from a convention, but it was a movie screening. I got an old Evil Dead 2 issue of Fangoria signed by Bruce Campbell like 15 years ago. He was in Iowa City and showing, I think he was showing The Man with a Screaming Brain and or one of those B movies he directed for Sci-Fi Channel, and it was right when his first book came out, and had him sign that, and that was pretty cool. So I have that framed up, and I would say that's right up there with the Joe Bob signature.
Nice. Yeah, I'm starting to relate with you about the 8x10 and 11x17. I see you post on Facebook a lot about posters whenever there's something coming out, and I'm to the point where I'm like, damn, I do not have wall space anymore.
Well, I can see, yeah, in your video feed, the listeners can't see it, but your background is immaculate. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and it goes way down the wall here. I've got tons of posters, and I'm trying to do the smaller stuff now to kind of fit in areas where I could still like look at it and appreciate it, but like the full size posters, it's not really happening.
No,
I did order that Texas chainsaw that they just released like last week or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'll frame it up, and it might just lean against a wall somewhere for a while.
I have a flat file where I'm starting to put my posters because I'm out of wall space. So it's just like one of those big wooden sort of blueprint cabinets that has the sliding drawers. And I actually, funny enough, last night acquired about another, I don't know, probably another 50 one sheets. I went to the Studio 666, the new Foo Fighters movie, and our Cineplex manager, multiplex manager, Trevor, super good dude, big horror fan. He just got promoted, so he's moving to Wisconsin to run a much bigger theater, and he did not want to take all the posters that he had accumulated over the last several years. So he just taped them all together in the tubes and handed it to me and said, you know, they're yours now to figure out what to do. So they're not all horror. It's just a mix of whatever they've got, but gonna have to dig through those and see what I want and see what I want to give away. You know, I'll pay it forward and give them away to other people who might want them if I don't need them. So,
wow, that's very cool.
Yeah,
I know. I need to get one of the flat files. I do have some space where I could put something like that in here. How do you flatten yours out though? Like to get them to go into the flat file?
What I do is I have what I used to do is put them between two sheets of foam core and sort of clip them around the edges. But now I have, you can get like, they're sort of paperweights, but you can actually get on Amazon. They're like the cornhole or beanbag toss game. You can just buy the bags and like packs of 4, and you put them on the corners and unroll them and put them on the corners and let them sit for like a month, and then they'll be flat enough to put in a drawer at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I know everything I buy, I just end up taking out of the tube and sticking it in a frame right away.
That's the best way to do it if you have the space. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had some posters leaning against the wall, but I finally found a little bit of space to kind of stick them up on a wall somewhere. So.
Yeah, I got all kinds of them leaning up against the wall in the basement. I have like a spare room that we just sort of like, when there's not room anywhere else, put it in that room. And that room is sort of a mess right now, but I need to start putting holes in the wall and hanging stuff up. So
you're a big figure collector too, Tad, if I remember right.
Yeah,
that's like full of everything.
Oh yeah, that's where it sort of started for me, is the toy collecting. And it was like Todd McFarlane came out with Movie Maniacs in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I was like, you can buy just a really detailed action figure of Michael Myers and Freddy. This is the coolest. And then it snowballed, and once again now I'm like, my collection is moving out of that room into the hallway because that room's full. And yeah, it sort of started with toys and evolved into screen printed posters. And I have not a whole lot of one sheets, but just like all horror collectors, I do a little bit of everything. So
now, do you have a favorite or one that's like what people consider a grail item or something that is different? Maybe that you're like, it's not, a mainstream one or something like that you enjoy or like the most or have a best story for?
In my collection, probably the Jason Lives mask. I did a video of that on the Attack of the Killer podcast YouTube page. But basically, long story short, I somehow got my hands on a mask from the movie mold that was, never used on camera, but it was from the actual set of Jason Lives. Met an old lady in Burlington, Iowa, who was selling a bunch of horror merch. And after striking up conversation and several months of back and forth, I found out that her son worked in special effects and makeup in movies and had passed away as she was selling his collection away. And how I found out is just so weird. It's almost like detective work. I had bought she sold off like his whole collection of Fangoria magazines. And when she told me that he worked in special effects, I'm like, oh, then he would probably be on IMDb. And I have his name on all these Fangorias because they were mailed to him. And looked him up on there and found out he worked on Jason Lives. And then I had this mask she just gave me. She didn't even sell it to me. She just told me, she wanted me to have it, and ended up contacting the head of the special effects in that movie. And he remembered the person who I got the mask from. And after chatting with a few people at the Friday the 13th prop museum, they confirmed that it's from the movie mold. And they asked if I could send it to them so they could make a cast of it. They really wanted to preserve it because I guess there's not a whole lot of them out there. And they were very excited. They offered me a nice dollar amount for it, but this person had trusted me and gave it to me, and I didn't want to profit off it. So just something that sits in my collection now, but just a really cool story behind it. And yeah, something very unique that not a lot of people have.
Yeah, definitely. And you never know what you're going to find just talking to people.
Yeah.
A lot of people, that's one of the big things that I talk about. Like if we're talking about our life and what we're into, I always bring up horror movies because I guess you never know. I've never had anything cool like that happen, but
yeah, so weird. This is at a flea market that is not at all horror related. This was something I've been going to since I was a kid. It started as a pigeon show, which is weird enough. Where they sold pigeons, or people raised pigeons and sold them, and evolved into a flea market. And then one day, me and my dad were there, and this old lady had a bunch of old horror action figures and books. She had the original Halloween novelization, which was the first thing that my eye caught. I'm like, holy shit, that's really rare. And of course, chatted with her. I was like very confused by why this like 80-year-old woman had all this horror stuff, and came out that her young son had passed away, and she was finally selling off his stuff, and she was very happy that it was going to another collector. And so what I ended up doing is I went through her stuff, and if I already had something or something I didn't want but I knew was valuable, I helped her out by listing on eBay and getting the money to her, because she was selling like a first edition of the Halloween novelization for like $5. I'm like, this is like worth hundreds. You should not be selling this on. Someone's going to rip you off, buy it and resell it. So I'll help you out. Let's throw it on eBay and get you some real money. And she was very thankful. So, then she brought me a Jason mask, and she was like, I don't know if this is anything, but it was in his closet. And, I don't want to sell it to you because I don't know where it came from. And that's how it sort of snowballed. And you never know who you're going to meet.
Wow. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to check out your collection someday.
I want to see yours.
Sure it'll happen. No, definitely. Yeah,
that's
when
awesome.
You guys come to Midwest Monster Fest, we'll do something here, and everybody can come. Everybody's invited. Well, not everybody,
Yeah, but I'm like squinting in the camera. I'm like, man, what's that mask right over his shoulder? Mm-hmm. That Michael Myers mask. Just some really cool stuff. I see Sam. I see Leatherface. You got and all those are the IKEA shelves, so those are like super nice, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've pissed my wife off by I keep buying those Detolf shelves.
Oh, those things are awesome.
I bought a couple to go out into like a separate room, but then I kind of stole them and kept them down here. And yeah, I mean, it keeps the dust off everything. It's so nice.
Oh yeah, I've only got one. We don't have an IKEA very close, so and I definitely don't have a vehicle to take them. Used to have my brother bring him back. He lives in the Twin Cities areas, but now he has kids and car seats and can't really bring him back. But I would probably take another couple if I could ever get back to IKEA. Those things are perfect.
We go up there every once in a while. We just went a few weeks ago back to IKEA. I didn't buy any Detolf shelves, but I'll try and remember that. Like if it's a time where it's getting closer to where I'll see you again, I'll grab some.
Let me know.
Or if I'm going to Burlington like a month after that,
heck yeah,
we'll help you out. Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah, I feel like every time we go to a convention in Chicago, we have to go to fucking IKEA. I was like, are we going to the convention or IKEA? Which one we doing here? Are we going to the convention because you want to go to IKEA, or are you going to the convention and we're just stopping at IKEA?
Yeah, the very first convention I took Brian to was up in Chicago. Was it Flashback, or was it like Day of the Dead?
I think it was Day of the Dead.
Something like that.
Dead or what? Yeah.
And right after the convention, we left, stopped at IKEA. I bought 2 more Detolf shelves, and then we came home. So,
heck yeah. They're affordable and they look great, and like you said, keeps the dust off of them. It's the best. It's like the collector's dream. They're awesome.
Mm-hmm. And now that we got this house a couple of years ago, I actually have like space that I can have my collection out and come down here and just enjoy it.
Yeah, like I said, I just have the one and it's overflowing right now. So like to throw a few upstairs to put some collectibles in.
Yeah, I know Jason and I had talked about this on previous episodes that I kind of live my collecting life through him because I have kids and I don't have a huge space. And he kind of lives his movie buying life through me. And now he's got me into buying records. He's like, oh, look what come out. I think he's just doing it because he wants to order 2 and save on shipping.
That's it. Like, yep. And it works.
Yeah. Now I have like 4 records and no record player.
They don't take up too much room though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, behind me there I have like my whole record set up, and I got quite a few. I've been collecting about 4 years again. I started just kind of out of nostalgia. Like I remember the records when I was a little kid, and I just wanted it, and I didn't know how big of a rabbit hole it was going to be going down and getting all the soundtracks and all the records that I used to love.
Did you get the new Texas Chainsaw 2 from Waxwork this week?
No, I should. It's still available. Well, hopefully. Last time I looked.
Yeah, I picked it up. I couldn't. That's my favorite Texas Chainsaw movie.
Oh, so, by far.
Yeah, so I had to grab that one. I'm guilty of it. I have quite a collection, and I do have a turntable and nice setup just because it's down in the basement with the movie setup. But I don't listen to them as often as I should for how much I pay for them. But again, just the gatefold packaging and the beautiful vinyl, all that stuff, it gets me. So
yeah, last year within a couple days of all of them, I went and bought the entire Friday the 13th collection. And those are, harder to find and kind of pricey at some points.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I don't listen to them that much because I feel like it's just like a lot of like squealing music. Like Friday the 13th. It's not something you want to listen to like really enjoy.
Right.
I'll listen to them a little bit, and then I like more of the, the John Carpenter stuff or like the actual music sound and stuff.
Yeah, that's where I sort of started, was like the John Carpenter vinyls, and then it just sort of snowballed from there. But it's like, I told myself I'm just trying to stick to John Carpenter, and I picked up like more and more. But my collection's like 90% John Carpenter stuff. I have multiple copies of each of his albums because they put out the red swirl versus the clear versus all that bullshit. The art edition versus this edition. Yeah, I'm a sucker.
And that's what I do with the Halloweens. I have tons of the same one, but just different colors.
Me too.
Yep. So there are more collectors out there just like me.
Yep, we have a problem.
We're suckers, but hey, I know it's a big cash grab, but it works.
Yep, they got my cash. So.
Yep.
Yeah, we ordered Return of the Living Dead soundtrack this week, and it's a red and white. I don't know, and then Student Bodies. We ordered that soundtrack, and I was like, "Oh, what color is that going to be?" It's black. It's just a plain black record. I was like, "Oh, whatever."
But a lot of people say that's like the best sound you're going to get. So
is the plain? Yeah.
People, audiophiles are sort of nuts, I think, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't get it. I just upgraded my turntable at Christmas, and it does sound a lot better than my old one did.
Yeah.
But I don't have an ear for knowing all that, the little technical things that come with it.
Me either. I'll listen to stuff on streaming a lot of times at work, and it's like, I know people hate on that, never listen to Spotify, it's the lowest quality. I'm like, whatever, my ears are not good enough to pick up the difference. So
yep, same. Yep. All right.
So you're not going to buy the Mystics and Bali soundtrack?
if they put it out, it's just a bunch of laughing. It's like
I'll laugh. Well, there's some music at the beginning.
A little bit, yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and then that movie, speaking of first time, we're not like really stealing, but it's the first time we saw Mystics in Bali. That's the movie we're doing today. Was for Mr. Tadgood's birthday party.
Heck yeah.
In Burlington. Had us over to the Capitol Theater. And, he keeps it a surprise, doesn't tell us what movie he's playing. So you didn't tell us at all. You just kind of started it, right?
No, and I sort of, a lot of times I'll get to the theater that night with like 5 options. And that night I let you guys vote on the second movie. But like sometimes in past years I'll show up. I just have a hard time deciding and just sort of read the room and see what mood I'm in that night and play. But it's always sort of a time crunch right leading up to the night on deciding what we're going to play. I can only think of a few times where I was certain what I wanted to play. This has been going on for like 7 or 8, maybe 7 or 8 years now. So the theater's been reopened for 10 years now, and just rent the theater around my birthday every year and do a fun double feature.
I was going to say, this is my second year.
Yeah.
I know you did the first year you did House, the Japanese version of House. And Jason Lives?
Yeah, because it was on Friday the 13th.
Movie? Yeah, it was Friday the 13th. And then this year you did Mystics in Bali, and then
Boxer's Omen.
Yeah, the Boxer's Omen, which I voted for, but I maybe shouldn't have. I regret my vote. So yeah, every year Tad for his birthday, is gracious and shares, his gift of the theater with us, and invites people and has food and shows 2 movies, surprises you. All of them, I've seen Jason Lives, but the other 3 I would have probably never seen without you showing them. So that's a gift to me. You're sharing your love of a movie with us. And the first movie this year was Mystics in Bali, and it was a movie. It was a fun ride though.
I would say it must have stuck with you, because here we are,
yeah,
6 or so months later, and we're chatting about it.
And I brought Jason along, or he met me there, and his wife Tanya come along, and I don't know how she felt about the movie, but I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, it's a fun movie.
We all have significant others, and I feel like they know what they're in for if they're with us,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, looking at Jason's background, I'm like, she lives in that house too, so she knows what she's getting herself into. She knows she's not showing up to the theater to watch a Disney movie or something. So
no.
But yeah, it was so funny when the movie started. I had to like look over at her and see her reaction, because she's not big into these obscure, trashy type movies.
Yeah.
And even my response, like to the opening of the movie, it was like, what the hell are we in for here? And looking at her face was just classic. She didn't know what she was getting into, like with this type of movie. But I gotta say, I feel like, I'm a better horror fan, better person for have seen it now. Okay, so it's the type of movie when you're watching it the whole time is like, you're like, what the hell am I watching?
Yes.
Like, and then more stuff happens, and I'm like, okay, it can't get any worse. And then it does. But then it totally sticks with you. It's
right.
I actually have to say, it's kind of like a good movie that everybody should see.
I don't know if it's worse or better. It gets better.
It does.
Get worse as it goes on.
Yeah.
I will say this. I rewatched it yesterday to just refresh my memory for this podcast. And it is definitely one of those movies that plays best with a crowd. Like, that's what on my birthday, I think, okay, what's a good movie that is almost not quite unbearable to sit through by yourself, but you don't want to sit through The Room by yourself. Jason Bollinger has never seen The Room, and he's like, should I watch it? I'm like, not by yourself. A Rocky Horror. Watching at home is not the same as watching it with a packed crowd who's throwing stuff, yelling at the screen. It's something you have to experience. And it wasn't, I'm not saying it was unwatchable by myself, but it was like, without having a crowd react to all the batshit crazy things that are happening on the screen, it's just not quite the same. And so when I pick these movies, I have to keep that in mind, is like, what's something that would be fun for a group to watch collectively. And this is a party movie.
Oh, for sure. So if you haven't seen Mystics in Bali before, it's a 1981 Indonesian supernatural horror movie. And it follows the story of a young lady. I believe she's from America. I think in some of the dubbings she's maybe Australian, because it's dubbed, of course. So they and it follows her and I think her boyfriend. I think they're a couple. I mean,
I think so, yeah.
And she wants to study black magic. The leak, I think, is how you say it.
Liak.
Yeah, the Liak. Yeah. Black magic, which is supposed to be the strongest black magic in the world. So she's in Indonesia to study the Liak, and they find a Liak queen, the queen, and trouble ensues. And it's based on mythology of, an Asian folklore.
I'm glad you guys sort of followed the story a little better than I did, because this is the second. I mean, I watched it, at the birthday party. Obviously, I was running the projector, so I didn't get the most out of it. I usually just sort of sit up there and watch everyone react to movies, but like this time around, still watching it, I'm still like, visually, it's a treat, but I'm still like trying to follow the storyline as to what's happening while I'm watching. It's not something that you go into for a great story. It's something that you go into to be like, holy shit, someone made this. It's always amazing. Like someone wrote this down and it went from paper or script to screen and they completed it. And it's pretty, just always the adventure of making this had to been wild.
You think that's what people like in maybe say Indonesia would see like a Bigfoot movie here and be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, maybe.
They really think they got this 8-foot tall thing and nobody sees it, like running around, like.
Yeah, I wonder if it's a little more, not necessarily normal, but more accepted in Indonesia because they know that folklore. Mm-hmm. Where to us it's just like this crazy old witch in a tree with 2-foot long fingernails that cackles constantly. The most annoying witch of all time.
Yeah, I looked it up because when she said she had already studied voodoo in Africa, and I'm like, oh, voodoo's a real thing. Is this Liak? Is it real, or is it just something they made for the movie? And it's legit. It's a real Indonesian mythology. And then like reading about it, stuff that happens in the movie, like the super weird stuff, is all part of that mythology. It's real. So they're just kind of making a movie based on these old stories from Indonesia.
So like the floating head with the spine and lungs is part of it?
Yep. 100%.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would imagine it's something that they've kind of like us with Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, the Mothman. It's a mythology that they've heard as children and they've grown up with, and their parents probably say, you better eat your vegetables or the Liak Queen's going to come cackle in your face. And, like...
Basically, steal your soul and become youthful through you.
Yeah.
Like throughout the movie, she becomes like less and less old.
Mm-hmm. You better take your prenatal vitamins or the Liak Queen's going to suck your baby out of you.
I would love to see how they did the effects, because it's clear they had no money on this. And they're not the greatest effects, but they're using what they have and it's very effective. Like rewatching it again, it's just so cool. Like you can almost see like, it can't be maybe green screen type stuff, but it's like you can see where like it cuts off. And you can see like the head like coming out, and it's just so impressive how they do this with next to nothing. It's almost inspiring,
Yeah, the filmmaking was not great. Like I love like the cut scenes, where it's like, okay, Kathy, I'll see you tomorrow, and then boom, it's tomorrow. They're like straight on to the next scene. There's like
the editing, is pretty choppy.
Yeah.
So the lady meets the Liak Queen tomorrow, like cuts right to it. And they're like, oh, she's hard to find. They find her right away.
Just listen to the cackling, you'll find her.
Yeah, listen to the cackle, you'll find her.
You can't just walk away like that, young lady. It's not so easy.
And she's super demanding too.
Right.
She's
Well,
like,
she's
when
the
you come
queen.
tomorrow, wear this and bring blood.
I love that. Like they're like, it's like a, not even like, their reactions are so strange to her. Like if I saw this thing in a tree, even if I was looking for it, I would be freaking the F out. And they're like, let's shake hands. And she pulls the old classic trick of, oh, now you got my arm. Like, but like even shaking her hand, they're just standing having a conversation with this monster. And I'm like, I would not get near that thing. And she's casually chatting, like, I want to learn from you. It's like, this is wild. Like, I don't. It's like not even that bad acting. It's just like improbable situation. You know, it's just like, I can't fathom that I would ever even get near that thing. And they're casually chatting with her.
Well, and they're walking through the forest at night.
Yeah,
like that. That alone, right there. Like, no thanks. You know,
no protection. I would imagine in Indonesia, there's probably wild animals that you need to watch out for.
Yeah,
well, just
dancing
the reactions.
pigs.
Yeah, the reaction to a lot of things. Just rewatching it, so funny. Like the scene, I'm sort of jumping around, but in the scene where she's throwing up and she throws up like rats or mice or something, and he says, it must have been something you ate last night. Were you eating live rodents?
Well, that was after they transformed into snakes and they slither away, and he's just like watching them
right
from the bushes. I'm like, what? no, like, oh, nothing.
Right. Yeah.
I love the people that are probably listening to us talking. I've never seen this movie. I've never heard of it, never seen it before. Tad introduced us to it, and go watch it. Like,
it's on YouTube in high quality for free.
Yeah.
I think probably the highest quality you're going to find it. Yeah.
I say there is one DVD out there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I know. I thought about ordering it just to have it.
I think Vinegar Syndrome sells it.
Really? Yeah. That would be fun though, just to have a group again, even though we know what's coming. Get a group together.
You should something that you unleash on people.
You should set up a camcorder, Tad, like in the front of the theater, just to like kind of catch people's reactions.
I think the one I showed that had the best reaction was probably the Greasy Strangler. I love
that movie
like 3 or 4 years ago, and I went out into the crowd and told them before we played it, like, just a heads up, this is grotesque and ridiculous. I won't be offended if you walk out, and I think that got like the biggest crowd reaction. But this one is a lot of fun too.
Mm-hmm. And I've never seen the Greasy Strangler. Ooh. Brian's talked about it, and I saved it on Amazon. Like, I saved it to my list, so every time we opened up the Fire Stick, it would show up like right there, like the old man and the younger guy, like
in the pink. Yeah.
And finally, my wife is like, "You have to get rid of that. I hate seeing just that picture every time I open it." Has no idea about the movie. I've never seen it either. I need to watch it.
Don't watch it with her.
Okay.
If she doesn't want to see the picture, she will not like the movie. It has a lot of those two naked and greasy. So
now I have to watch it with her.
Yeah. Tiffany has seen it twice because I put it on one day to watch it, and she's like, "Oh, what are you watching?" And she's working on homework. And then I showed he's 16 now, but I showed my son who was 15 at the time, and it gets like 10 minutes in, and he's like, "How long is this?" And I was like, "I don't know, like hour and 25 minutes." He's like, "There's an hour and 15 minutes of this shit left." I was like, "Yep." Yeah, that's I love that movie. I probably shouldn't, but
I'd say that's another one that's definitely better with a crowd though.
Oh yeah. We could watch that. We're going to Pennsylvania for Living Dead weekend, so I don't think I've ever seen Dawn of the Dead, the original, and I don't believe Jason has, but he has a copy now.
Yeah, I've seen it, but it's been a good 20 years.
Yeah,
I need to watch it again. Yeah, I bought the 4K. I broke down and bought that just to.
Nice.
So we're going to watch that next weekend when I'm up hanging out with them. So maybe we'll watch the Greasy Strangler next after that.
a very strange double feature.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know people have talked about Mystics in Bali and have compared it to the Evil Dead, like the Indonesian Evil Dead, because of the haunting and the witches and sort of Deadite-like woman. I mean, outside of the guts and stuff, I don't really think possession maybe a little bit, but it's not, to me, it's doesn't remind me a whole lot of Evil Dead, maybe in the low budget filmmaking and that kind of stuff. But it's definitely, if you're a fan of Evil Dead, I think you would like Mystics in Bali.
Yeah. So the witch uses this American girl who's trying to learn about the Liak magic. She uses her to, what is it, like rejuvenate the witch. She gets younger by, like, even in the mythology, it says that it would they would feed on newborn blood or newborn children, which is weird. Like, that baby wasn't even born yet, but she sure helped it be.
In a very strange scene.
Yeah, and I didn't understand what was going on at first. I'm like, so the head severs, it's floating around, and I love the practical effects. I would have loved to have been on scene watching like the head float, like probably on fishing wire, like through the village, you know.
Yeah, at one point you can see it's clearly like a mannequin head floating with the, was it like the heart, lungs, and stomach or something? Yeah, with organs on it, just floating through to go attack somebody. Or I think at one point it like attacks somebody and is like gnawing at their neck. Like, you're like, what the fuck is going on here?
Well, and then that lady that was in labor.
Yeah.
So when that scene happened, I was like, what is this head doing? Like, it goes between her legs and it's like sitting there like looking at her like super awkwardly. And then you see her, the camera view was perfect though. It's like from the pregnant lady looking at the lady, and her stomach is just shrinking down in size as this head is
sucking the baby out of her.
Yeah, it definitely had a reanimator vibe at first. You know, where we know the severed head goes down on Barbara Crampton, and then it's like, oh, he's taking the baby. Okay, not that that's much better, but still, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I wonder if anything would be made like that today. Like, what the reaction would be. Well, there was like the scene they say in the It, where I guess there's a deleted scene where Pennywise eats a baby. And I'm hoping it gets released sometime. I kind of want to see.
I'm surprised there hasn't been, and maybe I just am not informed of them, but there's not any more movies based on this, like, mythology.
Oh, maybe there is. Yeah.
We've talked a lot about like movies that need remade. Like, you know, they're remaking everything right now. They're remaking Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all that stuff. But like, this is a movie to remake. You could improve on this special effects and everything. Like, you could do that. You could improve on the baby eating, you know?
Yeah.
Ooh,
but is it a story worth retelling, or could you retell it this day and age? I mean, with an indie film, maybe, but a studio's not going to touch this thing.
I think that's something for prescribed films.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You know, Blumhouse isn't touching it.
No. Well, wasn't there a scene in the newest like Puppet Master where the puppet cuts that baby out of that lady? And the littlest.
I would say Puppet Master's not exactly the, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, it's
happening now.
Yeah, it's happening. It's just get Mike and Jason on that. We'll get Mystics and Bali remade in Ottumwa, Iowa, along the river there.
Yeah, it looks just like the scenes in the movie. Yeah,
Indonesia.
Indonesia and Ottumwa, close enough.
Yeah.
That could be based on a family that moves to Iowa.
There we go.
From Indonesia, yeah.
This thing follows it. Yeah, I gotta say, I kind of want one of those masks now. Like the dancing heads at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, yeah. Sort of cool.
Yeah, that is actually like the mask of the queen. Like when I was reading about the Liak. And I thought it was just some weird stuff that started at the beginning of the movie. But no, it was like one of them was like the dancing queen head or whatever, the mask.
Yeah, because the movie kicks off right away with like a tribal sort of dance type thing with someone in a mask, and it right away has your mind racing, like, what in the hell are we watching?
Exactly.
I can only imagine what you guys were thinking when I put that on the screen. You're like, oh god.
I think I looked at my watch to be like, okay, this movie's at least an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like, I need to start counting down to when we're going to be done with this shit. But no, I'm glad we watched it. It was, you know, I liked it. I know we're not getting into the reviews yet or the ratings,
but think how much smarter you are and the knowledge you gain from, maybe you'll never use it, but you know about the mythology now and the Liak and, you know, if some of the other stuff that you would have never went into that rabbit hole if you wouldn't have seen this movie. So
maybe we're going to be at a trivia thing some night and they're going to bring up the Indonesian
horror
baby eating head.
What is the bonus question? What is the art of black magic in Indonesia? Yeah.
I love that one. Like, I have some people who can't make it, you know, to the thing every year, so they'll message me like that night and be like, "So what'd you play?" And Brian Clark, he's like, "What'd you play?" I'm like, "Mystics in Bali and Boxer's Omen." He's like, "Of course, yeah." And he knows it inside and out and is very familiar, like everything I've ever shown. You can't find something that guy hasn't seen.
Yeah, he's kind of my go-to when I'm like, I need a movie about killer furniture. And he's like, "Oh, you gotta watch this pornographic movie.
Oh yeah,
it's about a mirror." And I was like, so he asked me the other day, "Did you guys watch that movie for the podcast?" And I was like, "No, unfortunately not."
Yeah, he's always threatening us. He's like, you know, he always likes to come on to our Unwrapped episodes of AOTKP where we watch something that on the shelf that hasn't been unwrapped, and he's always threatening us with some weird horror porno shit that he's bought over the years at a convention or something. I'm like, nope.
Yeah, I went to look for the movie. I was like, I wonder where you could watch it. Like, and it's on like RedTube or something.
Yeah.
I was like, what the? Well, I want to watch it, but
right.
Just going to the local video store around here, and
it's probably in there. Yeah,
probably. Yeah,
it's in the room behind the curtain.
I should go do that. Go into the video store. Like, where's your horror porn? Like, I know there's a Halloween version. There's a Halloween porn movie that has like the pumpkin on the front and all that, or the jack-o'-lantern. And I've thought about buying it just to have it in my collection of Halloween stuff. You know?
I have a friend who has it, and it's one of those gigantic VHSs. It's like the case is huge. It's not even like the old Disney ones. It's like novelty size case for some reason. I think they just know like collectors are going to buy this as like a gag, so let's just put it in a ridiculous package and stuff.
Is it called Halloween? What is it? I mean,
I think it's just like Halloween porn parody or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Or Halloweener. I don't know.
X
something.
Halloween XXX or something.
Yeah.
Halloweener.
Yeah.
Is there like 8
comes home?
Is there like 12 of them like the Halloween that there is?
The woman keeps dying and coming back, and you have to ignore the second part by the time you get to the 11th part.
Yeah.
This one ignores the sequels.
It's not his sister, we promise. It's not that type of movie.
But by the 10th one, it is his sister.
Then it turns into some wrong turn type shit. Jesus.
Might be the best movie in the series.
Anything else we want to say about Mystics in Bali? Like what?
You'll get that laugh, that cackle stuck in your head, and it gets a little incessant, but definitely worth watching. It's a short, nice little movie. Like I said, it's on YouTube in high quality with dub, so there's no subtitles you have to read. Just go along for the ride. It's wild.
Well, I did stick the subtitles on this time. I was like, I gotta put the fucking subtitles on. I don't know what these people are saying.
I felt like Mahindra was in the friend zone the whole time.
A little bit, yeah.
It seemed like they were a couple, but then it was like she kept like pushing him off. And when she got the tattoo on her leg from we haven't even talked about the tongue that came out from the trees. That's something else I want to be on set for. I could just picture like a long stick with like a fake tongue on it, and a guy from behind the trees like sticking it out. And there's just so much randomness in this movie. like weirdness, absurd. I'm surprised it doesn't have more of a cult following. Maybe it does, but just nothing that I was aware of.
Yeah, when I'm looking for movies for the birthday thing, it's like every year it's like, oh, how am I going to top the previous year? And I always find these good lists of movies, and then ask, like your Brian Clarks, and just reach out to different people. And Mystics is one that was on a lot of lists, and it was on YouTube. And as soon as I sort of threw it on, and I'm like looking through it, and I'm like, okay, this, if nothing else, just for a few key scenes, is worth throwing on the screen. So yeah, I think it doesn't have as big of a cult following as you might think it should.
Yeah. I should put that witch's laugh as my ringtone when I'm walking around conventions, and just
if anybody's like, I know that laugh, okay, you're cool. Like,
well, yeah. And then me being the collector, I was looking for like autographs from some of the people.
Yeah,
like the witch, I guess she was a famous Indonesian actress.
Oh wow!
And she died a couple years after the movie was filmed or whatever, but.
Yeah, I want like a cool action figure of the witch with the long nails.
Yes.
Or the floating head as an accessory with the
that would be stuff. So great.
Yeah.
So the witch was Sophia W.D. She appeared in 43 movies from 1952 to 1986.
Yeah, so there must have been two people playing the witch, like the actual witch lady.
Right.
And then the young lady when she becomes, young and beautiful again.
Right.
Yeah, that 43. 43 movies. That's a
pretty good career.
Of movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were two. Sophia was the old queen, and then there was a younger person that played when she sucks all the babies out.
Rejuvenated young.
Yeah.
Fountain of Youth queen.
The front of the DVD kind of ruins the movie though, because you see the floating head with like the entrails on it. So I feel
that's
like
their selling point.
Yeah. But that's also like a big thing when you see it for the first time. You're like, what the fuck is that? What just happened?
Well, if you went to Family Video or Blockbuster back in the day and you saw that sitting on the shelf, you're like, okay, I got to check this out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I believe, it's considered a kind of a staple of Indonesian horror, the cult classics. But the guy that directed it had some other movies that people are... say are better than that one. There's one, Lady Terminator. I was like, that sounds good.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if I've seen that one or not.
Are they all like Indonesian ones, or they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shit, I might have to look into some more now.
Yeah, there was another one too that they talked about, and I was like, oh. But yeah, that Lady Terminator kind of seems to be his maybe most well-known movie.
Has a really cool poster.
No floating organs on the front.
No.
Is it a rip-off of Terminator?
I don't think so.
It's a lady.
Yeah, the spirit. No, the IMDb says it's about the spirit of an ancient evil queen possesses the body of a young student. So, who then goes on a murderous rampage. So again, another sort of possession movie.
Supernatural kind of mythology, maybe, of Indonesia.
Well, there you go. Check that one out for next year, Tad.
Yeah.
Or later this year.
Yeah.
God, are we getting to... I don't even know what day it is anymore. Your birthday's not for a while.
No, we're in November, so almost another trip around.
Was it November?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I guess it was getting a little cold out there.
Yeah. Seems like a lot longer ago, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well,
when
was the Mick Foley
it
thing
seems
up
like
there?
Forever ago.
Was that like July, August?
I think it was like, I don't know now.
We've had some really good times.
Hopefully
at the Capitol.
More to come.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, you're the director of the Snake Alley Festival of Film. That's a big deal. My first foray into a film festival was this last year, and I had a good time. Really enjoyed it.
Taking submissions now, so those are rolling in, and I need to keep up on those too. So we've got 12 hours of film submitted already, and sift through those and watch everything. And of course, right before the deadlines is when everyone starts throwing their stuff in. So I know I'll probably double by the time the deadline hits. So
I'll definitely be there for
Excellent.
the film festival again this year.
Yes, it's a lot of
it was
fun.
enjoyable. Plan better, take the next day off, I think, so I can kind of get there earlier and maybe spend some more time hanging out. Yeah. Meet up with Brett and Tony and that crew.
Oh, yeah.
That wild crew
a lot
of
fun.
people. Yeah, we're lucky in this area. We've got a really good horror family. So, yeah.
All right, so let's rate this movie. Tad, what do you think? What do you think, Tad?
What's your rating
our
system?
rating system, Tad? It's 1 through 10, but we tried to do something that ties into the movie. So something
like
crazy
for Halloween,
that ties
I give it
the
9 jack-o'-lanterns out of 10, or just something.
Okay. How about out of 10 for this one? I would say this is a 6.4 floating heads.
What do you think, Jason?
I would say 6 out of 10 babies sucked out of the mom's womb. So it's funny though, like I'll just go back into this. The first time we watched it was with Tad, and then the wife and I came home, and I think we talked a lot about it on the way home. So it just kind of stuck with you. And then we get home, and I mentioned it to my daughters are older, so I mentioned it to them, and then I actually pulled it up on YouTube and like showed them some of the scenes like of the movie. So it's the type of movie that definitely sticks with you. When you start to watch it, I would have given it like a 1.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, and then now even like, months later, yeah, it's a good 6. It's definitely worth a watch.
So let's see and it's like you said, it's one of those movies that if you watch it with a group, it's so much better. So if you're going to sit down and watch this by yourself, you're probably going to get up from your TV or your computer and be like, okay, that was like a 4 cackling witches out of 10. But if you're with a group of people that you enjoy being around and that enjoy the same things that you enjoy, you're probably going to come out with like an 8. I mean, because the first time we watched it together, I left and I was like, God, that was such a fun movie. I love that movie. Like, there's so many things bad in it, but with that group and, having dinner and hanging out and, being your birthday, I'm like, that's an 8. Like, that's one of the best times I've had maybe watching a movie, like a 8 out of 10, Leah, Queen, and Kathy's being transformed into pigs, which was a whole weird, like, what the fuck are they transforming into?
They have so much they could do with these action figures.
Oh, yeah.
Floating head, dancing pig, the witch.
Yeah, and so if somehow someone's
dancing.
made an hour into this and still they haven't stopped and started watching, you just gotta, we can spoil the movie all we want, but until you sit down and actually watch it, it's not the same.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tad, for like introducing us to this movie, because
of course,
something I'm so happy I've watched, which I would have never even given at the time of day any other time. But I had just driven 2 hours and I was stuck in the theater with a bunch of people, so might as well watch the movie and enjoy.
You're all at my mercy. Yep, you're here, and you're not going to turn around and go home. So,
but it was such a good time. It was such a good time. Thanks for inviting me. That was fun.
Of course, anytime.
Hopefully, I'll get another invite this year. So,
of course, I
will definitely be there. It was fun. So, anything you want to talk about, Tad? Anything you want to rep? I know we talked about your podcasts.
Yeah, just go listen to First Time Podcast and Attack the Killer Podcast. If you're a filmmaker, go submit your short screenplays or short films to Snake Alley Festival Film. You can find us on all the social medias under Snake Alley Festival Film, and we have the links there where you can go and submit your films. Other than that, come check out a movie or show or at the Capitol Theater in Burlington, and we always got something going on for everybody. So
very cool.
Yeah, be sure to follow the Capitol on Facebook. They're always, like you said, always something going on at the Capitol, and it's just a beautiful kind of throwback theater, you know, that you just go and you sit and enjoy movies, and kind of a different experience than the big, you know, leather chairs nowadays. It's a
and that
school
marquee
nice change.
That marquee is super cool. Like Brian and I, when we went there for your birthday, we're like, hey, let's take a picture out here.
Heck
and it's a cool picture. You know, it's a cool place.
And we just upgrade our projection, so we'll be doing first run movies here in the next months, and excited for that too.
Yeah, it's well worth the drive to go there and check out anything. I'll definitely be going back. It's a good time.
Well, thank you, Tad, and
of course,
thank you for having me on
Yeah.
your podcast, and you know, getting this kind of started for me, this passion for podcasting and friends and hanging out and talking about crazy scary movies. This might be the craziest one we've talked about so far. I mean, we're only 11 episodes in, but I think it's going to be hard to top Mystics in Bali until, you know, next year when you have your birthday, or later this year. And then we're like, remember that movie we watched on your birthday? Let's have them on.
Anytime. No, I'm glad that you guys are doing this too. And I'm a listener, so it's you know, always good when you have more new, fresh podcasts to listen to.
Definitely. I mean, there's enough time to listen to them, so it's just something you can kind of put on in the background and kind of listen to. And
oh yeah, I work, you know, as a graphic designer full time, so it's like sit at my desk 8 hours a day and play podcasts from the time I get there till the time I leave. I'm always listening to people talking. So,
well, and then you learn like all the horror stuff and everything you want to check out, and good time. Well, thank you, Tad.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Take care. And thank you for listening to the I Like It Spooky podcast. Don't forget to check out all our socials, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, what's wrong with you, man? Show some fucking respect for the dead, will ya?